My fiancé cheated on me 3 days before our wedding, so I married someone else. Part 1. The Discovery. I was supposed to be getting married in 3 days. I had my dress, the venue, the floral arrangements, the playlist I'd obsessed over for 6 months. My family had flown in from 3 states. His mom was already staying at our house. I had the ring on my finger, the champagne in the fridge, the veil hanging like a ghost from my closet door, and I thought I had him. Adam, the man I was going to spend the rest of my life with, or so I thought. This isn't a post where I pretend to be strong from the start. I wasn't. I was stupid, delusional even, because the signs were always there, weren't they? The nights he came home late without explanation, the way his phone was always on silent and face down, the weekends he suddenly had to work, even though he never brought a laptop. But I loved him, or at least, I loved the idea of him. The Adam who held my hand when my father died. The Adam who danced with me in the kitchen to Fleetwood Mac. The Adam who once cried watching The Office finale with me. That Adam was real. I know he was. But maybe he didn't last. The way I found out was so cliché I'm embarrassed to even write it. My best friend Rachel was out with coworkers at some upscale bar in the city, a place Adam had claimed he hated. He always said it was too loud and too full of plastic people. At 11:43 p.m., I got a text from her. "Are you with Adam right now?" I blinked at it, confused. I was in bed, alone. His text from earlier said he was having a late night at the office. I replied, "No. Why?" Her next message hit like a bullet to the chest. "Because I think I just saw him making out with someone at the Ruby Room. Blonde, short skirt, not subtle." For 5 minutes I just stared at the screen. Then I called. No answer. Called again. Nothing. I tried to breathe. Told myself it could be a mistake, a look-alike, a misunderstanding. But Rachel never got things like this wrong. She was the type to triple-check before accusing someone of stealing a pencil. If she said she saw it, she saw it. She sent me a photo. Blurry, yes, but unmistakably Adam. His hand was on the small of her back, his mouth against hers, that casual, crooked grin on his face, the one I used to melt for. I felt sick. I felt cold and hollow and violently awake. My wedding was in 3 days. And he was kissing someone else. I drove to his office. He wasn't there. I drove to his apartment, the one we'd been renting together for the past 2 years. The one filled with boxes labeled honeymoon stuff and gifts. He still wasn't there. At 2:11 a.m., he finally came home, reeking of perfume and guilt. "Hey," he said, smiling like nothing was wrong. "You're up late." I didn't scream, I didn't throw things, I just held up my phone and showed him the photo. I watched the color drain from his face like a dying battery. His first words? "I can explain." Of course he could. They always can. What followed was a mess. He claimed it was a mistake, that he was drunk, that it meant nothing, that he didn't even like her, that it had only happened once. I asked if it had really been once. He didn't answer, which was the only answer I needed. I told him I was calling off the wedding. His mom cried. My mother begged me to think about the family, but Rachel was the only one who said the right thing. Leave his sorry ass. So I did. Except, I didn't stop there. The next morning, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Logan. He was my ex from college, We dated for 2 years and broke up because we were too young and on different paths. But we'd stayed friends. Loose, infrequent friends. The kind that check in, maybe once a year on birthdays or when someone dies. But somehow, he had heard what happened. "Damn," he said on the phone. "You okay?" "Not really." "Need anything?" "Actually," I said, mostly as a joke, "I need a husband by Saturday." There was a pause. Then he said something I didn't expect. "Where and when?" I laughed. He didn't. "I'm serious," he said. "If you want to blow this whole thing up and still walk down that aisle, I'm in." I told him he was crazy. He said, "Probably." But then he said, "He humiliated you. You don't deserve that." And I remembered why I fell for him back then. Why he was the only man who'd ever made me feel like I mattered before I put on makeup or faked a smile. So I said yes. Logan flew in the next day. We went to the courthouse, fast-tracked the paperwork. We didn't tell anyone except Rachel. And on the day I was supposed to marry Adam, I walked down that aisle with Logan instead. Everyone gasped. The whispers were deafening. Adam looked like he'd seen a ghost. He tried to stop it. He stood up in the middle of the ceremony shouting my name like a man possessed. But I just smiled and kept walking. Part 2. The Fallout. The wedding was held in the same garden venue we'd booked 6 months ago. The same one Adam and I had toured in the spring, hand in hand, imagining fairy lights and slow dances. Except, this time, he wasn't the groom. Logan stood there in a charcoal gray suit, clean-shaven, confident, and maybe just a little amused. He held my hands without flinching. He said the vows like he meant them. And when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," he did. Gently, slowly, like he wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. But the gasps from the crowd were real. So were the phones flashing. I knew this would end up online. Knew we'd be a headline by morning. The woman who replaced her cheating groom at the altar. The story practically wrote itself. And Adam? He stood in the back like a man watching his own funeral. Frozen, wide-eyed, ashen. His mother cried again, this time for real. My aunt nearly fainted. The groomsmen didn't know where to look. And Rachel? She had the biggest smirk on her face I'd ever seen. We didn't throw a full reception, just drinks in the garden, a toast, a lot of awkward glances. People were whispering so loudly it might as well have been broadcast over the sound system. But Logan? He handled it all like a pro. He leaned into it, danced with me like we were old lovers rediscovering each other. And I guess, in a way, we were. That night, we didn't go to the honeymoon suite. Not yet. We got a quiet hotel room a few blocks away, ordered greasy room service, and sat on the floor with a bottle of cheap wine. I was still in my wedding dress. He was still in his suit. It felt like we were in a movie neither of us had auditioned for, but somehow we both got the lead roles. "Are we insane?" I asked him, halfway through the second glass. "Oh, absolutely," he said. "But this is a hell of a lot more fun than whatever Adam had planned." I stared at him. "Why did you really say yes?" He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Because I always thought it should have been me." The story went viral in less than 24 hours. I didn't post it. Someone else did. One of the guests, maybe. Or maybe one of Adam's bitter cousins who hated me anyway. Reddit, TikTok, Instagram Reels, you name it. People ate it up. The betrayal, the revenge, the wedding twist. My DMs exploded. Some people called me a legend. Others called me unstable. Some said it was the most badass move they'd ever seen. Others said it was petty and immature. But Logan? He ignored the noise. He shut off social media, made us pancakes the next morning, told me he was proud of me, and for the first time in days, I felt calm. Until Adam showed up at my apartment. He was waiting by the door like a kicked dog, disheveled, red-eyed, pale. "I need to talk to you," he said. I didn't want to, but curiosity got the better of me. Logan wasn't home, and I felt safe enough. I let him in, barely. He stood in the living room like a stranger, like he'd never lived here, like he didn't know where the cups were or which drawer held the silverware. "I messed up," he said, voice shaking. I don't know why I did it." "I think you do," I said coldly. He sat down, rubbed his hands over his face. "She meant nothing, I swear. It was just stupid. I panicked. The wedding was close, and I don't know. I got scared." "And you thought the solution was cheating on me?" "No," he said. "I thought the solution was ruining everything. I guess that's what I do." He looked up at me then, eyes glassy. "I love you, you know. Still do." I didn't say anything. "I want you back," he said. And I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. "You cheated on me 3 days before our wedding," I said, "and then watched me marry someone else without saying a damn thing. You don't love me. You love the idea of me, the safety, the convenience, the comfort." He looked wounded, but I didn't stop. "You didn't fight for me. You didn't come clean. You lied until you got caught. And now that it's all blown up in your face, you want to pretend like you still get a say in my life?" Silence. Then he said, "He won't love you like I did." And I smiled. "I hope not." I closed the door on Adam that day and never opened it again. But life after that wasn't just a movie ending. It was complicated. Because now, Logan and I had to ask ourselves, what now? Were we actually married? Yes, on paper, legally, but emotionally, relationally, we had no roadmap. We spent weeks trying to figure it out. Sometimes it felt perfect, like we were finally picking up where we left off in college. More mature, more grounded, more honest. Other times, I questioned everything. Was I just using him? Was he just caught in the thrill of the moment? But Logan didn't waver. He took it slow. He let me be messy. He let me cry when wedding bills arrived. He helped me write apology notes to guests who'd flown in confused and left stunned. He didn't ask for anything, just stayed. And one night, when I woke up sweating from a nightmare about Adam and the blonde girl, Logan just wrapped his arms around me and whispered, "You're safe now. I've got you." And I believed him. 1 month later, we moved in together for real. Not as a stunt, not as a rebellion, but because it made sense. 6 months later, we started saying, "I love you" again. This time, it stuck. And 1 year to the day, after the wedding that wasn't supposed to be, we threw a tiny dinner party in the garden venue, where it all went down. No guests, no photographers, just us. And I told him, I never wanted it to be anyone else. And he told me, it never was. Part 3. The truth about power. Power, it turns out, is not what you think it is when you're 28, broken-hearted, and wearing a wedding dress meant for someone else. Back then, I thought power was revenge. A viral moment, making Adam squirm in a suit while I married Logan in front of everyone we both knew. That was power. For a while. But it was small, temporary. Like a sugar high with a crash waiting on the other end. The real power? That came later. Quietly. When no one was watching. Let me explain. After the wedding explosion, my inbox overflowed with chaos. Brand offers, interview requests, people asking if they could option my story for a movie. No joke. Some producer from Netflix's reality division messaged me, asking if I'd be open to doing a docu-series on modern romance and betrayal. I laughed so hard I nearly cried. But there was one email I did respond to. It was from a woman named Clara Rivera, an editor for a massive women's publication. She said my story hit her in the gut, said I had a voice, asked if I'd ever considered writing about it. I hadn't, but I wrote her back. 3 weeks later, I submitted my first piece. A first-person essay titled, "I Married Someone Else at My Own Wedding. Here's What I Learned About Love." It went viral. Again. Only this time, it was different. It wasn't a spectacle. It was mine. I kept writing. About betrayal. About starting over. About rage and romance. And rebuilding a life with someone who wasn't your plan A, but ended up being your destiny anyway. People responded. Some hated me. Some said I was faking. Some called me toxic, impulsive, reckless. But more people, a lot more, called me brave. And those people, they kept reading. Soon, I had a column, then a book deal, then a following. And suddenly, I wasn't just the girl who replaced her groom at the altar. I was a voice, a brand, a force. Logan watched all of this unfold, like he'd always known it would happen. He didn't get in the way, didn't make it about him, didn't sulk or pout when the spotlight hit me. He just stood beside me, steady as gravity, reminding me to eat and sleep, and maybe answer my mother's calls once in a while. I think that's when I realized something no one tells you when you're growing up. Power isn't in the moment. It's in the momentum. And Logan, he was my momentum. One day, about a year and a half after our infamous wedding, I ran into Adam. It was at a fundraiser, of all places. He was standing near the bar, drinking whiskey like he was trying to forget he was there. He spotted me instantly and froze. I didn't. I walked right up to him. He stammered out something like, "You look great." And I smiled like a shark. He asked how I was doing. I told him I just hit the New York Times bestseller list. He blinked. "I didn't know you were a writer." I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You never knew much about me, Adam." He opened his mouth to respond, but I'd already turned. I didn't look back. That night, Logan and I celebrated with champagne in a hotel suite overlooking the city skyline. "Do you ever think about him?" Logan asked. I shrugged. "Not really. I think about the version of myself who almost married him." "And what do you think?" I smiled. "I'm so glad she didn't." The power I hold now doesn't come from taking something from Adam. It comes from the fact that I built something better, with someone better, after the worst thing that ever happened to me. I have a career I never imagined, a voice people trust, a partner who doesn't just love me, he sees me. And Adam? He lost a woman who became more than he could have handled. To everyone who called me crazy, dramatic, or unstable when I flipped the script at the altar, you weren't wrong. I was unhinged. I was dramatic. I was vengeful. But sometimes, chaos is the fertilizer of transformation. And I transformed. Not into a wife, not into a headline, but into a woman who owns her story and writes her own ending. And that, my friends, is real power. Part 4. The final choice. It's funny how betrayal can be the start of something beautiful. I used to think the worst part of what Adam did to me was the cheating, the actual physical betrayal. The images of him with someone else in a hotel room when he should have been picking out our wedding cake. But I've come to realize that the real betrayal wasn't in his body. It was in how little he saw me, how small he believed I was, how forgettable he assumed I'd be. He never expected me to rise, never expected I'd do more than cry, scream, disappear. But I didn't disappear. I evolved. The life I have now is a tapestry of sharp turns and second chances. I'm not just that girl from the wedding video anymore. I'm a published author, a columnist, a speaker at women's empowerment events. I've even consulted on a limited series for Hulu based loosely on my story. They changed the names and gave me a dog. I don't have a dog. Yet. And Logan? Logan is still the quietest part of my success. The man who holds my hand at galas and reminds me to stay grounded when the world starts spinning too fast. He never asked to be famous, never wanted the spotlight. He just wanted me. Not because I was viral, because I was real. The turning point came last fall. A major studio approached me, one of the big ones. They wanted to buy the rights to the whole saga. The betrayal, the viral wedding, the love story that came after. And they didn't just want to adapt it. They wanted me to co-produce it. It was a multi-million-dollar deal, more money than I'd ever seen in my life. But with that offer came something else. A new wave of attention. And with it, Adam. He emailed me. I hadn't heard from him in 2 years. Subject line, congratulations. I almost deleted it, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside, a single paragraph. I saw the news. You've made quite a name for yourself. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. No hard feelings. I hope you're well. No hard feelings? That line stuck with me. I closed the laptop and stared out the window for a long time. That night, Logan noticed I was quieter than usual. "Talk to me," he said. I showed him the email. He read it once, then again. Then he handed the laptop back. "Do you want to respond?" he asked. "I don't know." "Then don't," he said. "You don't owe him closure." But the truth was, I did want to respond. Not because I missed Adam. God, no. That ship had not only sailed, it had sunk in spectacular fashion. I wanted to respond because I finally had something to say, something I didn't have 2 years ago when I stood at the altar and chose a different path. So I wrote him back. One line. "You never knew me, but thank you for setting me free." I didn't send it. Not right away. I kept it in my drafts, let it simmer, and then I deleted it. Because some things don't need to be said out loud. Some victories are silent. The movie went into production this spring. It's surreal, watching actors play out the worst and best days of your life. There's a scene where I walk down the aisle in my wedding dress, only to pause mid-step, turn, and beckon to a man waiting off to the side. That scene wasn't in the script. The director added it. She said it felt right, that the moment needed to be more than just a swap. It needed to be a choice, a claiming. I cried when I saw it, not because it was painful, because it was powerful. The day the trailer dropped, my phone exploded. Texts, DMs, calls from numbers I didn't recognize, and one voicemail from Adam. I didn't listen to it. I just saved it in a folder labeled Past. Here's what I've learned after everything. Power isn't loud. It's not revenge, or virality, or getting the last word. Power is choosing who you become after someone tries to define you. It's waking up beside someone who didn't rescue you, but believed in your ability to rescue yourself. It's walking into rooms you were never invited into, and making space for others who've been silenced, hurt, overlooked. It's knowing that your story, no matter how messy, can be rewritten, not by erasing the pain, but by giving it purpose. Logan and I are planning a second wedding, not because we need it. We're already married in every way that matters. But we want something quiet, something just for us. No cameras, no audience, just a small ceremony on a cliff by the sea. I bought a simple dress, and this time, I chose it not for photos or fanfare, but because it feels like me. The me I became after the world fell apart. To the women reading this who've been betrayed, broken, discarded, I see you. I was you. But I promise, there's life on the other side. Not just survival, victory. And maybe, just maybe, the person who hurt you isn't your ending. They're just the prologue to your greatest chapter. So turn the page, write something fierce, and never let anyone else hold the pen. I used to believe that love was measured by how much you could endure. That the deeper the wound, the more noble the heart that bore it. I thought staying quiet made me strong, that forgiveness made me holy, and that smiling through pain was a badge of honor. But I was wrong. Silence is not strength. Endurance is not love. And a woman who betrays herself in the name of loyalty is not brave. She's just afraid. It took losing everything I thought I needed. His approval, his attention, the illusion of a perfect life. For me to finally find myself. Not the broken version I used to patch together with apologies and makeup, but the real version. The one who looks in the mirror without flinching. The one who no longer waits to be chosen, because she already chose herself. I started writing again. First in private, then on forums, and eventually under my own name. My story was raw, flawed, and brutally honest. And it resonated. Women I didn't even know reached out to say, "This saved me." That still brings me to tears. Not because I see myself as a hero, but because it proves what I always suspected. The truth heals us more than pretending ever could. Adam still tries to contact me sometimes. He's not with her anymore, from what I've heard. Maybe he realized she was just the fire escape from a burning house he built himself. But I don't reply. Not because I hate him, but because I've finally closed the chapter. Some doors don't deserve to stay open. Some men don't deserve a second ending. As for Logan, the man who loved me without needing to control me, I let him go. Not out of spite or pain, but because I needed to heal alone. He offered me a soft place to land, but I needed to learn how to stand. And I did. Now I'm building something new, not a fairy tale, but something better. A life rooted in reality, resilience, and truth. I'm learning how to trust again. Myself, first and foremost. I go on solo vacations. I sleep diagonally across the bed. I say no without guilt. And when I say yes, I mean it. The world keeps turning, and so do I. And while I once feared endings, now I know. The end of a relationship is not the end of a story. Sometimes, it's just the prologue to a better one. So if you're reading this in the middle of your own heartbreak, hear me clearly. You are not too much. You are not too broken. You are not unlovable. You were just in the wrong chapter with the wrong person. Close the book if you need to. Then, pick up a pen and write a story where you don't just survive, you soar.